What's going on, people? My name's K-Built, and this behind me is my 1996 EJ9. In today's video, which is going to be my first video on the channel, it's going to be a little update on what's been done so far, the kind of price we're sitting at, what we're going to be looking at doing in the future, and just an all-round little update on where we're starting from, because even though you can see behind me, it looks pretty different to stock. We're nearly 3 years into the build, and I thought now's a good time to start documenting it. So, what car is an EJ9? So an EJ9 originally comes with a 1.4 non-VTEC engine. What's in it at the moment is a B18 C4 paired with an S9B box. The reason I went with this specific running gear is because I think in terms of golden era Honda, I don't think you can get much golden era than the B16, B2, B18 kind of builds. The engine is originally out of a Aerodeck VTI, sitting around anywhere between 100 and 120,000 miles. The reason why I bought that specific engine was because it come with the swap.
What?
So it come with the radiator, it come with the gearbox, engine, drive shafts, come with anything you need basically in terms of engine mounts to B-swap and EK. The car itself, I bought from a friend. Didn't affect the price in any way, but I paid £2,000 for a completely box standard 1996 EJ9 Hawaii, which originally come in a Amethyst Pearl, which as you can clearly see, that is not, it's not purple, it's blue, which we'll get onto later on in the video. So including just literally the car itself, it was literally granddad spec when I first bought the car. That was with 28,000 miles, one owner from brand new. There was no logbook, I had to send off for a new logbook, but it was a good, solid base. Overall quality of the car, I'd say was probably an 8 out of 10. When we first bought the car, it looked absolutely solid from underneath, but then once we got it home and started stripping things off, checking sills, we started to quickly notice that it wasn't rust-free at all. It was quite literally rotted on all four corners. So what we ended up having to do was buying some sheet steel, which we actually ended up getting for free, which obviously didn't add an additional cost onto the car. But what did add an additional cost was the welder, the welding equipment, the grinders. Things like that do cost money. Grinding discs, sanding discs, welding wire, all them things add up. So once all the rust was cut out, I decided we would treat everywhere that needed treating, which included all the arches, the whole underside of the car was took back to bare metal. Everything arch-wise was completely stripped, subframe was removed, and everything was stripped back to bare metal. We could then start tackling all the other hidden bits of rust and corrosion that built up over the years. Once this was all sorted, we could then lay a red oxide primer, and then we laid a underseal onto the underside of the car, which then got the car pretty much as solid as we could get it. At this point, we can move on to talking about chassis components, the inside of the car, and where we're at with that. So the underside of the car, rear of the car, we've got pretty much everything that can possibly be hard race is hard race, apart from the chassis support subframe. I've not actually run one at the moment because I'm not running a rear anti-roll bar, which obviously might be something I look into in the future, but as of right now, when we're looking at going with the build in the next few months, it's not going to be anything that I'm really going to be looking into buying. Other than that, all the bushes on the rear were replaced. We've got hard race toe arms, we've got hard race camber arms, we've got yellow speed coilovers, and that's pretty much it for the rear, to be honest. There's not really much to the car. So on the front of the car, same again, we're running OEM front lower control arms with hard race uprated bushes. We've got yellow speeds on the front. Exhaust wise, we're not running exhaust as of yet because the car's not running. Subframe was put back in the car, which then set us up nicely for getting the engine ready to go in the car. So in terms of engine and running gear, the swap I bought for £2,200, which was a complete swap. I bought the swap from down Cardiff, and it come with pretty much everything needed to do a B18 C4 swap into an EK chassis. That is what I thought originally, till I got it all home and found that the radiator was no good. half the engine mounts was missing. Yeah, there was loads of stuff missing, so which added an additional cost onto the car. That £2,200 was gearbox, engine, ECU and the rest of the swap. ECU we've got to get mapped, so we're running a P28 chipped SSA ECU. In terms of the actual engine itself, the engine, stripped the engine in the garage. I then inspected the whole bottom end of the engine and found that there was no real damage, and that I felt pretty confident that we could rebuild it with no problems. So I sent it off to a engine shop. I had the block re-honed, I had the face of the block re-skimmed, and then I had a whole short block built by said engine builder. The headwork was also carried out by the same engine builder. The head and the block itself I had separately so I could build them myself. Once that was done, we could get everything built up. So the engine was completely refreshed. Everything that can be replaced was replaced. Not everything was OEM Honda. A lot of the stuff was OE quality due to the fact that we physically couldn't get OEM Honda stuff. Once the engine was built, I could then look into building the S9B. So the S9B we actually had a few problems with. So we had to do a taper roller bearing conversion to just a normal standard roller bearing. Reason for this is because the new kits come with them uprated bearings, which means you have to do a conversion, which is like a circlip, but it's a spacer, so you have to put it on the inside of the case, which then in turn spaces the bearings, which gives it a bit of clearance. Once that section of the gearbox was built, we could then get the clutch and flywheel on the car. So in terms of flywheel, we went with a competition lightweight flywheel. Clutch, we went with an XD OEM clutch. So we went with just an OEM XD clutch, which is what they originally would have come with, which is the one that we originally took out the car. Because the car is going to be NA, there's no need for me to run a stage 1, stage 2 clutch. It's not going to be boosted anytime soon. I do eventually want to boost it, but that's going to be a few years down the line where we've had our fun with the NA car and we're bored basically. So in terms of inside the car, this is where we really had the technicalities, because the inside of the car, we had to take the old carpet up, we had to literally completely gut all the sound deadening from the floors, we had to take all the plastics, we stripped the dash out, stripped everything from behind the dash, just to save a little bit of weight. Once everything was then stripped, we could paint the whole inside of the car, which is Laguna Seca Blue. So we switched from Amethyst Pearl to this Laguna Seca Blue, more so just because I really like the colour contrast between the Laguna Seca Blue. I just think it's a beautiful colour. I think it looks really nice. And I think especially on an EK, it's something that's a bit different. So once the sound deadening was removed and we'd done the paint, I then laid a new section of sound deadening in the front sections of the front driver and passenger side up to like behind the seats. Not that it'll probably do anything, but I just wanted that little bit of that peace of mind that it's not going to be too drony. I mean, that's probably naive of me to think, but I've never really done a build to this extent, and I've never really been in a build that's been done to this extent, so I'm kind of just going off what I personally think and believe. Once the carpet was then laid, which we run a 3 metre by 3 metre camper van carpet, which I bought brand new, which I think was 20 or 30 quid. I then made my own carpet. Once the carpet was made, we could then put the cage in. So the cage is an SW Motorsport cage. The cage itself, I think, was around £600-700 just for the cage. So once the cage was fitted into the car, it was then onto seats. So seats are not actually currently in the car. They're currently sat in my house. So the seats, we went with some Bride reps. Some people don't like the reps. I think for the price, it was around about £550-600. It's not going to break the bank. It's going to be something it's comfortable. They're going to be fun to use. And I'm not looking at spending £1.5 on some seats. I'd rather spend that near £1,000 on a nice cage that can be mounted into the car and potentially protect you. Other than the fact that we completely stripped the dash, I made a custom switch panel. So the custom switch panel was just made from just some normal, I think it was 2mm steel. Bought some eBay switches. I bought an isolator switch, just mounted everything up, welded some brackets to the back so we could mount it into the car. That pretty much concludes the inside of the car. to date. Obviously, we've still got the seats to go in. We've still got, I'm not actually putting any of the plastics back in the car. The door cards, I'm keeping the door cards off the car. So the inside of the car is going to be completely gutted, as light as we can possibly get it. Not because we're going to be taking it on track or anything like that. I just want it to be really raw. I want it to feel super raw. I want it to make you feel like you're in Japan, and that's the kind of feeling that I want to get from the car. So one thing I missed out was the fact that the original car comes with 242 discs on the front, and it comes with drums on the back. So what we did was the EK4 VTI conversion, which the front knuckles, which are 262, so we went from 242 to 262, you can actually get from the pre-facelift EJ9. I just went with a full EK4 VTI swap, which the fronts are pretty much the same. The rears, however, so the rears on the pre-facelift EJ9 are still drums, which meant we had to run an EK4 rear trailing arm, which then took the rear of the car to 242 discs. With the discs being replaced all round and the knuckles being replaced all round, I decided to rebuild all the calipers, rebuild and paint all the calipers, which did not cost, it probably cost 40 quid, 50 quid. The paint I got from my mate Jack, shout out to you mate, paint I got for free. The calipers I literally rebuilt myself. It took a few days to just get your head around where the seals have got to sit and things like that, but there's nothing that a quick YouTube video couldn't help out with. We actually applied a copper nickel coating to all the bolts, just to add that little bit of peace of mind that nothing underneath the car is ever going to rust bolt wise. I mean, we're going to get a bit of corrosion and stuff chassis wise, because at the end of the day it's still metal. Even though we've treated everything, you're still going to get a little bit of condensation in places that create a little bit of moisture, which is then in turn going to cause rust, which is absolutely inevitable. Then we can start looking at getting the outside of the car painted, getting wheels on. I mean, wheels wise, we are looking at RPF 1s, but for £1,200, I'm kind of looking at going with a rep. So I'm kind of looking at going with like JRs. A lot of people don't like reps, but the way I see it, I live in the UK. We're driving on the UK roads. £600-700 for some JRs seems a lot more convincing than £1,200. For this reason, I probably will go with JRs, only because if I get an issue with a rim, it's going to cost me £150-200 to replace the rim, opposed to £400-500 to replace the same rim. So I'm looking at double the cost. Tyre wise, see, this is another problem, because I did originally want to go semi-slicks just for the look. I think the semi-slicks look exquisite on the car. I think they look really, really nice. I was looking at going with potentially NS2Rs or potentially a Bridgestone. So the Bridgestones would just be a budget tyre. 70-80 quid for the tyre, opposed to £130-140 for an NS2R. Paint wise, we are looking at going with the Laguna Seca Blue, which is the same colour as what you see right here. Once the outer part of the car is painted, it's only then going to be small things, which is why I've got to a point where I want to start documenting the build, because I want to be able to potentially build something from YouTube with a bit of content to really showcase what really went into this kind of build, and what somebody young can do when they apply themselves to something, apply themselves to a goal and really persevere with the goal, because everything you see on this car has been done by me. I mean, I'm 23 years of age. I'm not a car mechanic. I've never really worked on cars before this. I mean, I worked on a few MX-5s and stuff, but nothing to this extent. So the paint, everything's just been a learning curve. I mean, I'm a forklift engineer by trade, but the only comparison I can put is the engine. We don't have manual gearboxes. We've got auto gearboxes, which very rarely need stripping. Engine-wise, engine's an engine. So chassis, stuff like trailing arms, steering knuckles, things like that are all new to me, which is why it's took so long. This build probably nearly took me, I'd say, in excess of 2, nearly 3 years. That is pretty much where we are with the car. What I will be doing, because I do also have an EP2, so the EP2 is more of a quick flip. So the EP2 is definitely going to be something that's documented on the channel, more in an episode. I mean, the EK, it's going to be, it's something I do for fun. It's going to be something where when I'm doing some stuff, I'll get some content, I'll put it together and I'll make a little video just documenting what we've done. The EP2 is going to be slightly different. So with the EP2, I'm going to be doing proper episodes where I show you cutting out sections of the arches, repairing these sections, making new sills. That's going to be the purpose of that car. So with the EK, just in conclusion, this is completely rough due to the fact that I'm not looking directly at my notes, because I do have it down to the nearest penny. But for the sake of the video, I didn't want to be reading constantly off my piece of paper. So I've literally just left it with a few things on there and I've just sort of ranted. So with the total of the car, with everything that I've done to the car, I'm probably in excess of about 14 grand. Damn! That is with absolutely every nut and bolt replaced. That's with absolutely everything. All we've really got left to buy is wheels, tyres, exhaust, fuel lines, and we need to get the car painted. Other than that, we're pretty much, other than like obviously little bits like little clutch lines here, little sections of brake line that I might need to remake, we're kind of going to be sitting at around 15, 16 grand when it's finished. And that's going to be a car that it's going to weigh around, it's going to be less than a ton for sure. Until I get it on some sort of weigh bridge, I'm not going to be able to give you an absolute indefinite answer, but it's definitely going to be light and it's definitely going to be quick for what it is. So I'm aiming for around 200 brake. I'll be happy with 200 brake. That then will be fun. It'll be fun enough to use on the roads. It won't be nothing what we can't use. It'll be something that we can have a lot of fun with. That pretty much concludes the video. In terms of future videos, it's not going to be a case of I'm going to do 1 video a week or 2 videos a week or anything like that. It's going to be a case of I'm going to start getting into a routine, I'm going to record more content, and then we'll just get the content out when I can physically do so. What I will say is make sure you're keeping up to date with the channel. Follow all my social medias, which will be on the screen. Make sure to like the video, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.